The biggest lessons I've learned in my life are here. Through different topics, I'm going to inspire and motivate you to reach your success and your dreams. I'm so grateful that you're here on Journey to Success. So let's enjoy my next episode together. Hi, Stewart. It's Fabio here from the Fabio Podcast, From Failure to Success. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing, Fabio?
Very, very good. And I'm very happy that you're willing to share your inspiring story of overcoming drug addiction and your current state of sobriety. So just to confirm, it has been around 10 to 15 years, right, that you are clean right now?
Yeah, like two-part recovery. So I got clean of drugs 15 years ago. But carried on drinking. It took me another 5 years of drinking to realise that alcohol was also a problem. So then stopped that as well. But so 10 years of continuous sobriety from alcohol.
Okay, cool. So we're going to divide your life into three parts in this episode. So your life before the addiction, during the addiction, and after. So could you please tell us about your life before this addiction and the causes of it?
Yeah, I mean, when you say before the addiction, I've come to sort of see my life as I was kind of always behaving in an addictive way. But before I picked up drugs and alcohol, life was pretty normal. I'm from the UK. I grew up in like what you would probably call a working class family. My dad would go out to work all day. Mum stay home, keep the house, look after the kids.
Regular life
home,
then.
Have a few drinks at the weekend. We'd go out to the pub. Alcohol was kind of like in the 80s growing up. Alcohol was kind of like seen as a normal thing for families to be doing. Families are always going out to parties, going out to pubs to have meals with kids and stuff like that. There was nothing really. A lot of people that get into addiction, they can sort of look at a point of their life and think that there was like some sort of trauma that happened. I didn't really have anything like that. Like, I just think that it was just kind of in me. Like, I was fascinated with alcohol from a very young age. Like, there was family parties and stuff like that, and I would always be, watching everybody, seeing what appeared to be everyone having a great time, enjoying themselves, having lots of fun. And I just thought, I can't wait to do that as well. Before I got into drinking alcohol from the teenage years, I think, it was a very common part of my life, and I was very fascinated by it. And I kind of always thought that it wasn't a case of if I would start drinking. I always kind of thought it would be just like a case of when I'm able to start drinking alcohol.
Okay. Well, it's there wasn't a real cause at the end. Basically, you, as I can understand, as I can feel, there wasn't a particular situation triggered that led you to start with some addiction, with drinking, with drugs. It was just a natural path, as I understood, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the reason for it was like part of my illness with addiction is I was very self-conscious as a child. Didn't really feel like I fitted in. I didn't really have many friends. I felt like I was bullied a little bit at school.
Okay.
And
there was something there.
There was something missing in my life, and I desperately wanted to just fit in. And when I took the first bit of alcohol as a teenager, like it kind of instantly removed all the anxiety that I had. And it seemed to be like the answer to all of my problems. All of a sudden I could be the class clown and become funny. People seemed to like me more when I had a drink. I was more confident to talk to people when I had a drink.
Okay.
So because it gave me all the things that I thought I needed, it was, to me, it felt like the best thing I could have discovered.
It gave you some confidence, basically. And I totally understand this factor, actually, because I have been bullied as well in my past. So my childhood wasn't really the best, and there is a kind of lack of love, That's the point. There is a lack of love, and you just want to show up to the people in a best way you can, and you start to do something that you shouldn't do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it happened also to me in my case as well, and it's very sad. It for sure, I think, was the trigger in your case. And what happened during your struggle with addiction? So now we talk about before this addiction, the causes of it. But what happened during your struggle with it?
I mean, like alcohol was like in the UK, alcohol was kind of like a normal thing.
Yeah.
Everyone was doing it. So, I mean, I started drinking probably around the age of 13, 14-ish, a long time before I was legally old enough to drink. But I drank through my teenage years, and I was kind of, it was already out of control, really, by the time I was old enough to even drink legally. But I didn't see it that way at the time because it just seemed like that's what everybody was doing. Even though I was probably the one that was always going a bit to the extreme more than everybody else, and getting myself into more trouble than other people. But because everyone else was still doing it at the same time, it seemed fairly normal. I think what it did, round about the age of like 16, 17, I kind of lost any ambition to like achieve anything. I wasn't really interested in going to college. I dropped out of college pretty quickly. I just wanted to get a full-time job, earn money, and be able to afford to go out drinking. And that's just how life kind of carried on for a few years. It got to a point where like alcohol wasn't enough. So I started taking drugs as well.
Okay.
And that was a similar kind of feeling, like I loved it from the minute. Like addiction for me is like, I didn't like the way I felt as a person and I wanted to feel different, and drugs and alcohol made me feel different, and I liked how it made me feel. But the problem I had is like once I had started and felt good, I didn't have an off switch. I couldn't monitor, I couldn't limit or control how much I was going to take. So I'd always be the one that went too far. So I went through periods of different types of drugs that I was taking. Started off with taking ecstasy pills. I was doing that for a few years. And every time I'd be on this kind of path, things would start going wrong. I'd like lose jobs or get kicked out of my family home, or lose a relationship. And I'd start thinking to myself, I need to sort myself out. And I'd go for a period of stopping taking drugs, cut down my drinking a little bit, and I'd start building a kind of life back together again. I'd get somewhere to live. I'd get another job. I'd start to feel like I'm doing okay. And then I'd reward myself by just going back to the way I used to be, thinking it'd be okay this time. And then I'd start on a different type of drug. So then the next time it was amphetamines. That was
a circle at the end.
Sorry?
And it was like a circle basically, and you were trying just to find something better, to feel something evidently in your life.
It's crazy because like if I look back at it now, I can see that when things are going wrong, I could realise that drugs and alcohol was playing a part in it. And I'd think to myself, I need to sort this out, and I'd limit it a little bit. But then when things are going okay again, I'd completely forget that drinking drugs was what caused the problems in the first place.
Yeah.
And my mind would just like not even consider the damage that I've caused before, and just think, oh yeah, you'll be okay this time. And each time I went onto a new cycle, it was like a further downward spiral. I'd go on to something that was a bit harder, a bit more dangerous. So it went on to amphetamine. I gave that up, and then a few years later, I ended up addicted to cocaine, and that was the worst part of the addiction. Because I described it before, like with when you're taking cocaine. So it's like I used to love drinking alcohol as my first go-to, and when you're drinking alcohol, you get to a point where you feel a little bit drunk and you probably can't drink much more. But if you sniff a load of cocaine, it kind of sobers you up a bit, and then you can carry on drinking again. So it's kind of like you're taking a cocktail of drink a bit, then snort a bit, then drink a bit more, then snort a bit more. And you can keep going for sometimes days in that cycle, because your body's going up and down and up and down, and you level yourself out. But the problem with that is your alcohol's a depressant, so you're pouring a depressant into your body, and then you're counteracting that depressant with an upper. So your mind and your mental health is just all over the place. It doesn't know where it is. 1 minute it's up, then it's down, and you're adding a depressant, and then you're taking an upper. Mental, by the end of that period, my mental health was shot to the point where I tried to take my own life. As you can see, because you're talking to me today, that I was unsuccessful. I managed to survive that one, luckily.
Before we go through, if you're enjoying this podcast, please consider taking just 3 seconds to share it with someone else. It is a small gesture that could make a big difference in someone's day. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Good. Well, it's have you never reached a point where you fell hardly and you thought like, okay, now I have to stop, I have to change? Or maybe it was more step by step, maybe it was more a process. So
yeah, there were like I said before, there was a few times where I would say to myself, I need to change, and I'd sort myself out for a little bit, but then I'd just go back onto the same cycle again. With excuse me.
No worries.
When I got onto the cocaine, that was the last kind of cycle of the drug addiction. It was at the end of that period that I put myself into a treatment center. But I got to that point because I'd got myself, I was in trouble with some quite scary people. I had some gangs that were looking for me. I had like a gang of men that kind of barged their way into the house that I was staying at the time. It wasn't even my house, but that's just where I was staying. I'm getting threatened by people with guns.
Wow.
And it's looking, like I was also getting like very close to like close encounters with police at the time. So it was getting quite on top in the area, and I was in fear of like either like being killed, taking my own life, or ending up in jail. And all 3 of those options, like, just it wasn't what I sort of like set out to achieve when I was younger.
Wow. Yeah.
I thought it was just like a party lifestyle. I didn't think it would get so serious. And at that point, I thought to myself, this is getting serious now. You need to make some serious changes. And I looked for the treatment center that I went to. I was working with a local drug and alcohol service and told them about the treatment center, and we went there and got an interview. I mean, if I'm honest, I think like going to the treatment center was more kind of running away from the problems. I thought if I just got away from the area, people would forget about me, and I'd get out. I'd get away from the people that were looking for me. But it ended up being the best thing I ever did, because from staying at that treatment centre, I didn't touch drugs again after that, and that was over 15 years ago now.
Wow. And did your journey of sobriety started from when you went out from that area, basically, right? Or when did your journey to sobriety begin, basically, properly?
So I was in the treatment centre for like 5 months.
It was like a rehab, I guess. Or not?
It was kind of. It was like
Okay.
it wasn't like a medical facility. It was like it was a dry house. So it was a strict no drink or drugs policy. You went and lived there, and they gave you like educational programs to kind of teach you how to manage money. So this was all things that I'd never really done.
Okay.
I left school, I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. And they give you like practical education things to learn of how to kind of like live like normal people do. I left there because it was a rule that when you were in there, you didn't drink alcohol. When I left there, I carried on not drinking alcohol, but I hadn't really decided in my mind that I was going to stop drinking forever. I think like when I went into the centre, I thought drugs was the problem. So if I stopped taking drugs, then I'll be okay. And because alcohol is so socially acceptable, it didn't seem, even my family didn't like anticipate that I would stop drinking for good. They were happy that I'd stopped taking drugs. So when I started drinking again, socially, like everyone just thought, that's okay, as long as he's not taking drugs, he'll be fine. So I carried on drinking, thinking that like that would just be a normal life from then onwards, drinking socially. But I guess like I just replaced one substance for another. Like addiction isn't so much about the vice; it's the reason why you're doing it. So I was just drinking to excess as well, because it's the same for me. Once I have one drink, I just can't stop it. I just want more and more and more. So I was still creating as many consequences.
Understand. So also during the treatment, you had some relapses, basically.
Not when I was in the treatment centre. When I was in the treatment centre.
Oh, very good then.
I stayed clean of drugs.
Very good.
But it was when I came out and came back into normal life, I just thought it would be okay, so I carried on.
Okay. And at what point does sobriety become easier?
So it took me 5 years of drinking, and I was playing like games for that 5 years. It was like the girlfriend I had at the time, who was mother of my children. She would say to me, I think you're an alcoholic, you need to get help. And I would say, okay. And I went off to a few AA meetings and stayed sober for about 3-4 months, but just convinced myself that I wasn't an alcoholic, and then went back home and was like, oh no, yeah, these people are different. That's not like me. I'm okay. So I over that 5-year period, I would try to go sober for certain amounts of time.
Right.
But never really succeed at it. And I think that's what kind of made me realise eventually how much of a grip alcohol had on me as a person, because I was either drinking alcohol, or I was thinking about drinking alcohol, or I was trying to manufacture some sort of excuse or reason why I needed to drink alcohol. So even when I wasn't drinking, it was consuming my life 24/7. I wasn't thinking about much else than just alcohol.
Well, you had a good purpose in a way to go forward. You talk about your children and the family environment. So I think that is the good way to think, like, hey, you know what, I have to do, because this is not the man that I want to be, So, and I think you are very proud about yourself, by the way. Truly. Well, I have the last question basically. So, as we said, we talk about your life before the addiction, during the addiction, and after. I mean, what about now? So, how was after? After this man that used to get drunk, used to get drugs. So, uh, how is your life right now, and in which way you see the man of yourself, the one who used to drink, used to get drugs, basically?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, life is amazing now. As we said earlier, I've got to 10 years of sobriety now.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like sobriety is like a never-ending like journey. Like when I got to like a year sober, I thought I knew everything then, and I still kept learning new things. When I got to 2 years, I thought I knew everything, and I still kept learning new things. And it's still the same today. Like I'm still learning new things about myself.
Yeah. Well, we all are learning here, so
yeah. I mean, I say to people that like when you're drinking alcohol, it's like drinking alcohol alcoholically. You kind of you stop yourself kind of mentally progressing in life at all. You're kind of training your brain to live in a certain way as if that's normal. So living in all those negative characteristics and behaving in bad ways.
yeah.
And if you've done that for 20 years, that's 20 years of learning. You have to unlearn again. So I'm only halfway through the process because I'm only 10 years sober. So I've only been retraining my brain for 10 years. So there's a long way to go yet. But yeah, like if I sometimes have to pinch myself. Like if I think back to how bad it got to where I am now, I wouldn't have, if someone said to me the first day I walked into an AA meeting that, in 10 years time, you'll be a published author talking on loads of podcasts to people all over the world, I wouldn't have believed them. It's still kind of unbelievable now, even when it's happening.
Beautiful. I sincerely appreciate you sharing your powerful story. It's very intense, but this is going to serve as a source of motivation for many individuals dealing with addiction. So I'm very happy you shared that. I don't know if it's easy for you or not to share this story, or maybe it's still painful. But thank you so much, truly.
Yeah, it was a difficult process. Like putting it all into a book. It's out there now for the world to read. Some of my deepest, darkest moments in my life. But I just decided that, people need to hear the story of someone who's been there and done it. I said it in my book, like when I was coming up to thinking about getting sober, I read a few books of like some celebrities who had been through addiction. And it's great, like hearing some of their stories and getting a little bit of inspiration from them. But when it's a celebrity who, they've got like quite a lot of money, they can go to the best rehabs. They don't have a lot of the struggles that like what I would say normal people have. So I wanted to write something that was like the perspective of someone who I see as just a normal person who doesn't have a lot, who has to build up from nothing again. Because when I got into sobriety, I didn't think for a second, the thought of never drinking again was just like completely alien to me. I was like, well, if I don't drink, what am I going to do? And it was a scary prospect, but if I can achieve that and keep it going for 10 years, then I believe that anybody can if they really want to. And I'm hoping that my story and me sharing my story can give people hope that they can also change.
Oh, you will. You do, and you will. And also from my side as well, from my show. So thank you so much, truly. And before we end, is there anything else would you like to add, Stewart? Tell me.
I had something really like clever planned in my head, but I always forget stuff like that.
All right. Would you like to go on, or if you like, we can close? It's also okay. It's up to you.
Keep going. If you got questions for me, you keep asking questions, and I'll keep answering.
No. It's okay. It's okay. No worries. And once again, thank you so much, Stewart, and take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Here we are. Congratulations. You just finished my entire episode. So, the only thing I ask is to take a moment to give Journey to Success a rating. By the way, thank you so much for being here on Journey to Success. I'm very grateful. Thank you, and see you next time.